Hello everyone, time for another video lesson with yours truly. We're focusing on breakfast now, and we're getting to cooking eggs. So this video is showing you how to cook eggs 3 different ways: sunny side up, over easy, and fried, or over hard, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Eggs are best made using a nonstick pan. If you don't have a nonstick pan at home, the first part of the video, the first couple minutes, are showing you how to make your own nonstick pan. It's called seasoning, so you just need some high smoke point oil, like canola oil, grapeseed oil, something like that, salt, and a rag, and that's it. So we can kind of make a nonstick pan out of a regular pan. So I'll show you how to do that. After that, I'll show you the 3 ways to do eggs, and then your job is to practice them at home this week. And then we're going to go to Flipgrid, and you're going to post videos of you flipping an egg on Flipgrid so I can see how you're doing. So let's make some eggs. So what we're doing here is seasoning our pan with some oil. So all I did was get the oil in a pan that I'm going to turn into my nonstick pan, and I got it on high heat to the point where the oil started smoking. Then what I'm going to do is, after it starts to smoke, I'm going to drain out the excess oil, so that's what my bowl there's for. Then I'm going to take some salt and put it into my pan. After that, I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to rub the salt and oil all around the pan, trying to coat it. So what I'm doing here, really, is trying to fill in all these little tiny cracks in the pan you can't see with your naked eye, but you could see with a microscope. Think of it as like trying to look at the Grand Canyon from space. Like, you can't really see all the cracks from out there, but the closer you get to it, you can see like all the different textures and holes in the canyons. That's kind of like what it is with a pan. So to create a nonstick pan, we're going to use the oil to try to get into those little cracks. And then from there, we're going to take the salt and rub it into the pan to try to coat it, and then we're going to create a nonstick pan from there. So moving on to my first egg. I'm going to crack it into a pan, and I have some butter down there too. It's on medium heat, so you don't need the heat cranked up all the way high because you'll end up burning your egg. But what you do want is a nice medium heat so the yolk doesn't spread out too far. I believe this egg is over easy is what I'm going to do. So all I did was just crack it on the side of the pan. I never crack it on the edge because that tends to push the shell into the yolk. I crack it on the side to kind of break it, and then I pull the egg apart with my fingers. So you see my pan is working as a nonstick pan. The egg's sliding around, it's not sticking. Butter does help to give it a little bit of lift in the pan too. Although butter's a fat, it does have a little bit of water trapped in there, so the water creates steam and gives it a little bit of lift, which is nice. So now I got my egg cooked for about 2 minutes on the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and flip it. I'm going to make like a small circle with my hand. I'm going to try to get the egg close to the top of the pan, and then just with a flick of the wrist, I flip the egg over. I don't want it to go too high because when it lands, the yolk will break. I don't want that. From here, I'm going to leave it cooking face down for probably about 30 seconds. Once it's done, I flip it back over and put it in. Now, the key to an over easy egg is we want to have a nice runny yolk. So here I go, creeping in with my knife, cut it, and the yolk should look something like this, where it's nice and runny in the middle. It's not set, and that's what we're looking for an over easy. The next one we're going to do is a sunny side up. So same thing, I'm going to turn the heat down a little lower than medium to like medium low. Not all the way low because I still want my yolk to firm up so the egg holds its shape a little bit. Again with butter. Cooking this facing up so the egg never gets flipped and the yolk kind of stays like that and cooks. What I want to do first is make sure that my whites are cooking. Once it looks like the whites are starting to set on the bottom a little bit, I'll go ahead and I'll put a lid on it to trap the steam in. And the steam itself is going to go ahead and cook the top of the egg for me. Sometimes if I'm working in a restaurant and need to speed things up, I'll throw like a little piece of ice in there to create some more steam, and it'll cook the top of the yolk a little faster. Now the white should be cooked all the way through. The yolk itself is going to be super runny, barely cooked at all. I probably had the heat up a little too high here because you can see the edges of my egg are starting to brown. So I probably had the heat up just a little too high. But you can see that the white is cooked all the way through. And then I tried to slide off, but I had too much butter in the pan. I didn't want it to end up on my plate. So I'll get the egg out with a spatula this time. Put it on the plate, and you can see white's cooked all the way through. Yolk is nice and bright yellow. Now for my next egg is going to be fried or over hard. A little bit more butter in the pan. I can turn the heat up a little bit more. For this, I'm cooking the yolk all the way through. So I'm really not too concerned with it holding its shape. So to speed things up, sometimes in a restaurant, I would take a knife or a fork and I would poke some holes in the whites so the whites can spread out a little bit and cook. And then I'd also poke the yolk a little bit too, there to get the yolk to spread out a little bit more. It'll decrease my cooking time. Because for hard or fried egg, I want that yolk cooked all the way through. Season with a little bit of salt and pepper. That's pretty much it. I'll let it cook for about 2 minutes on that side. This video is time-lapse a little bit. I'll go ahead and flick it again. Very small circular motion. I want the egg to kind of be traveling forward, and then before it comes off, I'm already pulling that pan back to get that egg to come back to me, landing in the pan. If you want to practice at home, get some wine corks if your parents have any of those lying around, or some marbles or anything like that. You could put them in your pan and just practice getting the flip down before you start cooking eggs. So that egg is cooked, side on the pan, so you can see the difference between the sunny side up and the fried.